Hello, this is David McKinster, and this is a brief introductory lecture to, the study of morals and ethics. Now, I suppose the first thing I should do is to explain the difference between those two terms. For our purposes, we're just going to use them pretty much interchangeably. If you wanted to take a more rigorous approach, morals would usually be used to, the term morals would be used to describe your most basic values, a framework of your understanding of right and wrong, good and evil, whatever. Whereas ethics would be a code of conduct which intends to somehow embody those morals. Now, many writers use the two terms interchangeably. I'm not going to split hairs about it. I'll probably use them interchangeably. Um, so, why should we be studying ethics and morals? Isn't it all just a matter of opinion? Really? Whose opinion? The opinion of your community? Of your leaders? Of a religious organization? Or of some rival religious organization? Or some. That's a problem. It's not that we don't have answers, we've got too many answers. But not all opinions, not all answers are created equal. Oftentimes, evidence, scientific evidence, physical evidence, historical evidence, is an important part of our moral judgments because we're saying these are the things that we're aiming at, and here are the kinds of conduct that are likely to promote those things. That's an evidential claim. It's subject to being proven or disproven, or proven likely or proven unlikely. Okay. Um, there was an American philosopher around the beginning of the 20th century whose name was Clifford, who wrote a very controversial article about the ethics of belief. Not everyone accepts what he said, but I think it has a great deal of heuristic value. That is, value in getting us to think about the things we need to think about. What he said was, you have a moral duty to care whether your beliefs are true or false. Why is that? Because you are going to take your beliefs into the world and you're going to act on the basis of those beliefs. Okay, now you'll see in the first module quotations from Voltaire, Plato, Bishop Berkeley, and uh, Kyle. Okay, um, Voltaire was a French man of letters. He's a part of the movement called the Enlightenment. Um, Voltaire was a playwright and an essayist and had a wicked satirical edge. But he said, and you often hear him quoted these days, if we believe absurdities, we will commit atrocities. Now, you don't have to wait and think for long to find examples of that. Absurd beliefs will lead us to such things as persecution, racism, sort of hateful, fearful attitudes toward people who probably don't deserve it. Politicians know that the public is very often just enamored of having scapegoats. Take all my problems, which may legitimately be problems, and blame them on some other group. And then if I can believe that they are the cause of all my problems, then all I have to do is just beat on them really hard, and somehow my problems will go away. I mean, that's at the core of racism. It's at the core of all kinds of religious rivalries, all kinds of international rivalries. Um, Hitler knew that, and that's how he rose to power. He took the very legitimate economic fears of the German people, economic distress of the German people at his time, and connected it to centuries old racial stereotypes about Jews. Okay, yeah, your money is worthless. We failed to really rebuild after World War I. The Treaty of Versailles ending World War I absolutely took advantage of us. But we need a villain. Let's blame the Jews. And if we blame the Jews, then guess what? All we have to do is persecute them, and somehow our problems will be solved. Well, isn't that at the heart of such things as racism? People who people who fear who fear that they cannot make their situation better because someone is oppressing them will find a scapegoat, and demagogues will realize that and use it to control people. Okay, like I say, you don't have to search very far to find examples of that in the news of the day every day. So, if we believe absurdities, we'll commit atrocities. Yes, indeed. And historically, that happens again and again. Plato said in his book, it's called The Republic, but actually, his title translates more accurately as doing the right thing. And in 100 ways, in 100 different contexts, he asks in that work, what's the right thing to do and why? Well, Plato says these are not idle questions we discuss, but how we ought to live our lives. And indeed, that's the reason for examining morals and ethics rather than simply inheriting them or absorbing them or being haphazard about them. If your values guide your life, it would be rather pathetic if we never gave them careful, close examination. On the other hand, because people oftentimes tie up their egos, their personal identity, with their moral beliefs or with their affiliation to some group within society that has particular moral values, people sometimes just feel personally attacked when you suggest that maybe what they're advocating might not be the best thing. Well, hey, that's philosophy. Okay, to find our most discover and clarify our most basic beliefs, our most basic values, to hold them up to the light of day, give them careful scrutiny, to ask ourselves, how adequate are they? Are they problematic in some way? We need to give a fair hearing to alternatives. And granted, there are going to be some people who just feel so personally attacked in that process that they will find it offensive that we even raise such questions. I am happy to say the majority of students I have had have said, this is really eye-opening. This whole enterprise is really eye-opening because it makes me understand my life and my relationships more clearly and suggests to me more positive alternatives than those that I may have embraced without thinking. Okay. Bishop Berkeley, Irish philosopher, I don't agree with even half of what he concluded, but he's one of my favorite philosophers to read because his prose style is so bright and he has so many particular insights on the way to his conclusions. Well, George Berkeley said, I think quite memorably, few men think, yet all men hold opinions. There's the problem. Well, wait a minute. I'm entitled to my opinion. Of course you are. And other people are entitled to think your opinion is rubbish. Okay, now a more positive attitude would be, well, here's what I think and here's why I think it. Can you give me good reasons for changing my mind? Okay, I hope you're not thinking of those memes with someone sitting at a table and says something ridiculous and then followed by, change my mind. No, this is serious. We ought to be able to change our minds. And we'll talk about the conditions under which we should change our minds later. A woman named Kyle has an article in an anthology called House and Philosophy. I don't know if you remember the old television show House about the curmudgeon doctor who was absolutely brilliant but also absolutely insufferable. There was a character named Cameron who was very big-hearted and was always getting into messes because of the fact that she just couldn't make a decision that might hurt anyone. And yet, Hey, that's life. Some of your decisions do hurt people, and sometimes, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Well, Kyle says there is probably no single moral strategy that will always bring about the best results for all parties involved. What's this? You're not going to give us the magic formula? Well, there is no magic formula. Okay? So if you think that this course is either going to give you uh, the skeleton key that will unlock, the passcode that will unlock, to use a more timely example, all the secrets of a successful life, there is no such thing. Again, it's not that we have no answers. We have a lot of answers, none of which we can accept uncritically. Or if you think it's going to give you a big hammer with which you can slam people who disagree with you, that certainly isn't going to happen. In fact, hopefully the course will help to disabuse you of the idea that that's how you ought to control, that how you ought to conduct a moral dialogue. It's been said that because we think that it's impolite, if you will, it's a provocation to discuss religion or politics, we, in agreeing not to discuss those things in order to avoid conflict, we never learn how to discuss those topics. As important as those topics are, we never learn to discuss them in a civil and constructive manner. Well, that would be very unfortunate, wouldn't it? Part of the course will deal with the whole notion of constructive dialogue. How do you bring about constructive dialogue, and how do you avoid unnecessary conflict? Okay. Um, Peter Singer, one of the people who will be studying, or will be studying one of his books and some of his thoughts, Peter Singer has said that there are three senses in which we can advocate something ethically. And a lot of unproductive arguing in ethics comes about because people don't get that they're arguing past each other. Okay, he says when we say something is morally desirable, we might be saying we think it's a duty, that you really do have an obligation to do it. Okay, well, if you think I have an obligation to do something, you need to be able to explain to me why, and listen to reasons why I might think that no such obligation exists. Or you might be saying that something is simply permissible. Something is morally right, well, in the sense that it's permissible. There is no compelling ethical or moral reason why I should be prohibited from doing it. Okay? And we'll talk about the notion of autonomy, particularly as the course goes along. Autonomy is a very important notion, particularly in modern ethics. That is, leave people alone. Let them make their own decisions. You don't have to make the human race homogenous. My students usually say, well, how boring would that be if everybody believed just the same things? Well, we need to have certain things in common so that we can live in the same society without killing each other. On the other hand, we don't need to have everything in common, and some things are best left to individual choice. Okay? Not everybody has to have exactly the same beliefs. What we have to have is what Bertrand Russell, the great philosopher, mathematician, and social reformer of the 20th century, Bertrand Russell said we need compossible ethics. Compossible. What does that mean? It means that it's a combination of the words compatible and possible. It means, you know, if you like progressive jazz, and this other person likes German opera, and I like Japanese heavy metal, we don't have to browbeat each other about it. It's perfectly possible for me to listen to the music I like, you to listen to the music you like, and the other person to listen to the music that he or she likes. Okay? If you're a Muslim and she's a Hindu, and he's a Buddhist and so forth and so forth, and this other person is a Christian, a Protestant, and this person is a Catholic, and this person is a Greek Orthodox, and this person is an Orthodox Jew, and this person is a Reformed Jew. Um, can we live in the same society? As long as we respect the fact that people have the right to make their own choices, and as long as we do not think that we have to bully each other into behaving just exactly alike. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of what in Buddhism is called exchanging self for other. If I saw this through your eyes, I might understand why you choose to live this way. However, that doesn't mean that I have to choose to live this way. And in fact, as long as we respect one another's choices, as long as we're not interfering with one another, we can both make those choices and we can both live a life that we find rewarding and satisfying. Okay. Now that's okay. Obligatory, permissible, and finally, the third sense in which we might argue for something, Singer says, is desirable. In other words, it's not a duty, and it's more than just saying, well, there's no good grounds for prohibiting me from doing this. I might actually give reasons for believing that a certain way of conducting ourselves is desirable. In order to do that, I have to find things that we desire in common, that we mutually desire. Okay? Now, that is not as arbitrary as you might guess. Many people writing about human values, many people who have been writing philosophy, forget something that is very, very important. Genetically, we're almost identical to each other. Okay? Uh, if something is really hurtful to me, there's a good chance it's going to be hurtful to you as well. If I need something in order to live, in order to flourish, then there's a good chance that there's something very similar that you need in order to survive and to flourish. Flourish is a wonderful term in an ethical context. It means you're capable of creating the circumstances to live well, and you also have the personal disposition to take advantage of those circumstances. It was important in ancient ethics. It's important today in the field of environmental ethics. Not simply how do we survive, but how can we flourish? Well, socially, we need to think about that too. Okay? The Singer, I found that Singer is often criticized for his own views by people who are talking right past him, saying, "Well, you've not demonstrated that this is a duty." Nobody's not arguing that something he's advocating is a duty. What he's arguing is it's desirable, and I can give you good reasons why, in some demonstrable sense, we'd be better off behaving this way than in some alternative way. Okay, so there's lots and lots to talk about. Not like sort of, I approve, you don't approve, and there's an end on it. There's lots to talk about. Okay, walk you quickly through the syllabus. Okay, read the syllabus. Okay, I know every teacher tells you that. Yeah, but it's true. I've tried to be explicit on the syllabus about what we're trying to do, why we're trying to do it, and what my expectations are of you. There are essay guidelines. Okay. Now, let me stress something. I generally am willing to accept something other than a formal essay. People have written poetry, short stories, plays, rap. I'll be the first to say, that when a musical genre becomes commercialized, it generally can get pretty repetitive, imitative, and lame. But honest to goodness, rap is a very no holds barred way of expressing what you think really is true and really is important. And it's a fine medium for doing philosophy, if you do it well. Okay, I've had a number of students who have composed original rap pieces and to satisfy an assignment, and that's fine. I've had people do all kinds of creative things, including visual art, including dance, including all kinds of things, okay? If you're going to do something that's a little far afield, and it's getting too far afield from a standard essay, ask me first. With this, what do I need to do to make this kind of project satisfy the course requirements? If you do something, if you're inclined to be a poet, for instance, or inclined to be a graphic artist, and you bring your skills to satisfy requirements in this class, that means you've really engaged the material on a personal level, and I should be encouraging that and supporting that. Not discouraging it and saying, well, no, you have to use MLA standards and blah, 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 blah. Forget it. Don't put the cart before the horse, as they say. And always be sure you know which end of the horse is which. So, I am not assigning research papers. I'm assigning analytical papers. You will have a series of multi-part essay questions. Answer the essay questions. Be thoughtful, be accurate, think things through logically, put some of yourself into it. I'm not expecting you just to spit back material and say, okay, here you are. At least I remember it, right? Yeah, but did you process it? Did you do anything with it? Okay. I've had many students before say that this course essentially changed the way they think about themselves and their relationships and their lives. So yeah, the more you put into it, the more you're likely to get out of it. I'm not assigning research papers. That means you don't have to dig up more information. I'm rather presenting you with ideas and saying, I want you to carefully analyze these ideas and evaluate these ideas. If you go running to a secondary source who says, well, this idea is right because blah, 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 and then you just repeat it and say, well, according to, Joe Blow, this is absolutely right because blah, 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 blah. You've really not shown me that you're thinking about it yourself. And that's what I want to see. You get credit for thinking. I don't expect you to have a comprehensive theory of the cosmos. I mean, if you do, I wouldn't mind hearing it, provided that it's, interesting. But what I expect is to see that you are exploring and thinking and being reasonable. That's all I ask. Okay. So if you're thinking, oh boy, we're going to have a bunch of papers and it takes me a long time to write a paper. Think of it this way. This has been very productive for many students. Think of it this way. Think of it that you're going to take that essay question, you're going to answer it in a way that you would answer it if you were trying to teach these ideas to someone else who had never heard of them before. Okay? If you can do that, one of the best ways to learn is to teach. So if you can use that approach, very likely you're going to do a good job. Well, everything else you need to know should be on the syllabus. Read the syllabus carefully. The Moodle modules should be self-explanatory, but if you have any questions at all, feel free to let me know. I can do face-to-face conferences via WebEx or Google Chat, depending on what's available for the particular institution where you're attending. But there are all kinds of ways you can have online chats, and I'm perfectly willing to do that by arrangement. Let me know what it is you want to do in the chat, what you want to accomplish, and we'll arrange a time and a day. And I've done that in the past, and it's worked just fine. So I really hope that you do enjoy this course and find it profitable. I had one young lady in the class a couple of years ago, actually, who told me after the class was over, she said, I grew up in a very conservative religious household. She said, and I think that's fine. I think I had good, solid values. I think it helps me in life. But this course has taught me to appreciate that there are other people out there who may have different ideas, and they're not bad people. And I can maybe learn something from them. And very often, what I should really be doing is minding my own business instead of telling everybody else how to live. Whoa. As the song Imagine says, yes, I did just quote John Lennon, I'm sorry. Um, imagine all the people just letting each other be. I mean, there's an upside to that. We don't want to simply say, oh, well, you're drowning. Tough, I'm not going to throw you a rope. I'm just going to let you be. Don't want to compromise your independence. On the other hand, I don't have to micromanage your life either. Okay? No one of us is the gold standard for being a good human being. So, thank you very much for taking this course. I look forward to working with you.